Hello, my name is Charlie. I own a design and marketing agency called Charlie Creates Marketing. I am located in Port Charlotte, Florida. I've been able to help a lot of local businesses in Southwest Florida. I also do some real estate videos and photography. But I saw recently that the Florida Senate passed a bill that requires HOAs to have a website that meets certain legal requirements. I wanted to get this message out, obviously, because I help design websites, but also because I think it's important to understand what the legal liabilities really are. I actually am kind of concerned about the liability that this will pose for HOAs statewide for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's a new bill. It's not something that HOAs really are used to having to deal with from a legal standpoint. And I would also say that this I don't mean this in a way that's insulting, but it may be a stereotype, but I think that a lot of HOAs in our state help to serve a demographic of people that maybe aren't very technologically literate, and also because they serve that demographic, it also actually makes them more liable, which is what I'll explain here in a minute. And I think added to that, the sort of stereotypical dislike for somebody's HOA. I mean, this is not true about all HOAs, but there's people that just kind of just don't like people who are in charge of anything anyway. But there's also people like my grandma, she doesn't live in the neighborhood I live in, but my grandma complains about how she has to pay this hefty bill every month for an HOA that she feels like doesn't really represent much for her. And I think because of that, if I was a lawyer and did not have a good hardwired conscience, then I could see how it'd be pretty easy to manipulate people into suing their HOAs because of issues with their websites. And what makes that even more concerning for me is the problem with that is that when somebody sues their HOA, they sue the entire neighborhood. And it's not like suing some government agency. Even then, you wind up having to pay with taxes. But when you sue an HOA, the whole neighborhood winds up having to pay. And it could be, if people aren't on their toes about this, then it could be a very major issue. And it does concern me. And so, and of course, I do have motivation because I want to help build your website, but I also want you to understand, even if I'm not the one who does your website, I want you to be as prepared as you can be and make sure that you meet all the legal requirements and little check boxes for your website. Now, my plan is I'm going to have links along with this presentation so that you can actually read the real bill for yourself. I want to do my best to try to summarize the two legal requirements that are noted in the law. I'm going to try my best to summarize and explain them as best I can. The first is that your website is going to need a page that is password protected, where your people from your neighborhood can access legal documents, the private legal documents that they're required to see from their HOA. The second requirement is that, now it'll say in the law that they need to be able to pay their HOA base from their HOA dues and bills from the site. But what they really mean, I don't want you to get too focused on the technicalities of the wording of the law. If you have a third-party portal where people can pay their HOA bills from, that you can link to on this website, you are going to meet the legal requirements. It's essentially the same as if you have an online store, which I actually do. If you have an online store and the store links to a third party to help process an online payment, that of course is legal. So you may already have a customer portal that's run through a third party. It is legal for you to use that as long as you link to that portal somewhere from your website that's accessible by your members. Now, I want to take a moment to explain that in further detail. While the law does say password protected, and you are going to want to set it up as a page that is password protected, the important word is actually protected. Because if somebody, an outsider, were to be able to access this page by finding a way around the password, then I'm concerned that an HOA could potentially be liable. And I bring this up because I have had clients who I've offered what I felt like was a fair and reasonable price for a very secure hosting provider. And they said, no, I think I'm going to save myself a few dollars a month by choosing another hosting provider. It turned out that that hosting provider was just very cheap and their site got hacked. So I do caution that because security is important to this bill, that you're going to want to do a little bit of the extra effort to make sure that your site is secure. I think that if there is a way for somebody to hack your site and bypass the password protection, that you would potentially still be liable, unfortunately. Now, thankfully, I actually have a lot of experience in creating member portals and logins that are password protected in a way that is very safe and also very easy. And thankfully, I've got these templates that I'm able to just reproduce and plug in very, very quickly. And I would hate for somebody's HOA to be charged an arm and a leg because somebody hand-coded by themselves some portal. These templates that I've got, they're very, very easy to plug in. Actually, I am a Wix partner. And yes, that is why I push for websites that are hosted by Wix. Wix has these hosting plans they call premium plans. Now, I have seen other competitors to Wix that are fair competitors, that they're usually local businesses or they're a personal hosting provider or just a local hosting provider that's somebody local just like me. And the competitive price that I have seen for them are around $50 a month. I have seen cheaper hosting providers that, as I said, I don't trust. Wix is actually number one in the world for security, and they're also number one in the world for SEO, which is a whole other ramble, but they are very, very good at what they do. They are a worldwide company. They have 24/7 customer service. I actually have a priority line, but I get on the phone with Wix customer service within about 5 minutes most of the time. Before I was a Wix partner, it would sometimes take 15 minutes or 30 minutes. But yeah, I would even call them in the middle of the night. They'd still answer the phone. And they'd be very, very helpful. It wouldn't just be like your stereotypical customer service agent. It's more like and if you've ever dealt with Apple's customer service, it's probably at about that level. Sometimes these premium plans go on a 50% off sale. If you happen to luck out and you're getting on the 50% off sale, sometimes you can get it cheaper than what's listed. But listen, don't stop there, because I want to take the time to explain other legal requirements of websites that aren't named in this specific bill, but are named in other laws regarding websites. Because my fear is that crooked lawyers may take advantage of this and take advantage of HOAs that aren't familiar with website law, especially because it's, as you'll learn later, it's very easy to make this case for an HOA. First of all, whenever you're collecting personal information, you are legally required to put on your website, on the site that you collect the information from, even if you aren't selling the information to a third party, which you probably aren't, you are still required to put a disclaimer about whether or not you sell the information to a third party, and if you share the information with a third party. And it's because you are required to have a members portal, you are therefore required to take people's personal information on the website. Therefore, you are required to have that disclaimer about how you handle the security of their personal information. There are also disclaimers that you are required to list if you're taking somebody's payment information. But that one winds up, most of the time, that winds up being a pretty no-brainer because the people that you wind up using to help collect payment already have the disclaimer. But it is important to note, if that's something that you are planning on doing with the HOA website, you have to have those legal disclaimers as well. But another one that is very important to understand was that this was very recent, that there was an American Disabilities Act that was passed that had legal requirements for websites regarding people with disabilities. Your website has to be able to meet certain ADA requirements, or else your website is liable. And that's why I think it's so important to make sure you check all the legal boxes for this, because it's going to be too easy for a crooked lawyer to say that someone's elderly grandma was too disabled to be able to read the legal documents that she needed to get to or pay, or couldn't read where she was able to access her portal to be able to pay her HOA dues. And suddenly the entire neighborhood is liable. So it's very important to make sure that your websites meet those ADA requirements. A brief summary of what some of those are. Obviously, font size. Your font size needs to be large enough and with enough contrast for it to be easily legible. And one that people don't often think about is that your website also needs to have alt text to the images that are able to describe what the image, to be able to accurately describe what the image is. Because there are now a lot of accessibility features that help people who have disabilities read what an image is, what the alt text is for an image, instead of being able to try to figure it out by looking at the image. So I think there are also requirements in there that they may even be about you. It's not supposed to have .jpeg in the name, because that's a clear indication that somebody hasn't gone through and done the alt text. So you're really going to want to make sure that you meet those legal requirements from the American Disabilities Act. And listen, I think that this is a big enough deal that if your HOA already has a lawyer, take a look at this with them and show them this video and show them the laws I'm talking about. Run it over with them and make sure that your website really is meeting all the legal requirements. They'll be able to help you make sure that your HOA website really does check all those boxes, because it's going to be really important, I think, to make sure that your websites are not liable. Now listen, I hate the thought, though, of this being a burden for somebody's HOA. I love the state of Florida, and I think that the intentions of this bill are good, to try to keep things open and honest and accessible. But I would really hate for this to become a statewide burden where everybody's having to pay a much heftier HOA bill because now everybody has to have a website. I've found my prices for design to be fairly reasonable, fairly competitive, probably on the lower end, especially because most of my experience has actually been in helping like small and new businesses. My price ranges for a website like this for an HOA is going to start at $600. It's just a one-time $600. Depending on your HOA's needs, you might have more. And listen, I don't want this to feel like just a legal expense. It's also a marketing expense. And if you need, I will travel, or you might already have access to photos people have already taken of your amenities, of your location. I want you to be able to feel like this website isn't just a legal requirement, but that it's a website that's also helping you meet your HOA's goals and marketing goals, and telling people about your awesome neighborhood so people can move to your awesome neighborhood. So please, if you are an HOA and you do not have a website, or you have a website, but you're concerned it may not really meet all the legal requirements, or if you feel like I might be able to help you make a more affordable site than the one that you're already paying for, please give me a call, 941-544-5728, or email me at charlie@charliecreates.marketing. I would love to help you with your HOA's website.